This is the Lunatics and Legends podcast. We are a podcast that is based on masculinity and healthy masculinity. We are absolutely about telling people's stories and kind of chatting with them and figuring out what was going through their mind when they were going through whatever they were going through. And I like the fact that we do not get heavy on a soapbox. However, there is something that's really weighing on me right now. I keep hearing about these men that are struggling with mental health issues, and I want to discuss that. I want to just kind of chat about, my experience in life with mental health issues, coping mechanisms, and some things that you just absolutely need to do if you're a man who's struggling right now. It is actually Valentine's Day right now as we record this. So if that tells you how fast we're attempting to get these videos out, but it meant a lot to me to discuss this, if not today, then shortly after Valentine's Day when we release this, because if there's a man that's out there that's actually like struggling with mental health, feeling lonely, feeling defeated, what have you, or even if they're in a relationship and not happy in their relationship, or possibly in a relationship and they're going through financial issues as everybody is right now, and maybe they weren't able to take their significant other out, whatever, I want to discuss those things and let you know that it's going to be okay. And I know that seems like a really bold statement to make. However, I think that there's a lot to unpack there, and I'd like to do that. I want to talk about the fact that if you're going through things and you're struggling with them, it is all right to change the things that you're doing to get different results. And I know that we've discussed similar themes before. However, I really wanted to deep dive on that because there's something that you're doing in your life that is creating the results that you're getting. And perhaps there's a different action. Perhaps there's a little bit more of taking yourself on. Perhaps you can just understand what you're doing or not doing that's causing you to get the results that you're getting. So one thing that's huge to me is brotherhood. Having men that you can reach out to and discuss life. I don't believe in having these types of discussions with your significant other, because then it has a tendency of creating insecurity in the home. You are supposed to be the protector, the provider, and the rock. And if you are freaking out about what's going on, then what is your significant other going to feel? She's going to feel like it's a volatile situation, that the whole thing could collapse in any moment. And that's not a place to put a woman. So reach out to your brothers. If you are struggling with something, reach out to your brothers. If you're struggling with self-worth, or if you're struggling with depression, if you're struggling with alcoholism, drug addiction, whatever it might be, reach out to your brothers. Obviously, mitigate the amount of complaining that you're doing, because if you just cycle in victimhood, you're going to be stuck there. However, it is important for men to have their tribe. It is important for men, so important for men to have their brothers.
There's a lot of things there to unpack that ultimately I agree with. Let's pull it back to cycles and being stuck. You were talking about that a moment ago, and that came up for me. Sort of started to think about things that are going on in my life, the cycles that I'm stuck in, right? And I'm a big advocate of everything is temporary. However, if I'm doing something that's creating a cycle and feeding that cycle, I can get stuck in that loop, and then it's not temporary. It's up to me to choose something else to step outside of that loop. So sometimes I can choose out of that pretty quickly in a couple of days, couple of weeks. There are other loops going on in my life that I've realized, like, oh, these have been going on for years. and this is resonating in other areas and creating loops in other areas in my life. And so these cycles can be much bigger than just, oh, today I'm going to wake up at 5 minutes earlier, and that's going to change the loop. Not how that works in my experience. I think it's pretty important to make sure that there's some emphasis on, hey, these loops can be quite large and quite all-encompassing. It is still important to figure out something to do differently. There should be some kind of simpler, smaller step to at least interfere with that loop. Even if everything else is still falling in line with that loop, so I'd pull something out that ultimately most people that are in a loop, if they actually stop to think about the loop, they can think of something that they could do differently. And I suppose I would encourage listeners, people that are consuming our content, to think about those things that they can do a little bit different, or the thing that they can pull out of the loop that they know they can pull out. Pull that thing out.
I agree. It's incremental changes that can shift the course of a ship when it goes miles down the sea, right? At one point, I decided to take a drag of a cigarette, and I coughed, but I had to be cool, right? And then from there, it led to, I like the way that it makes me feel. I get that little nicotine buzz. It's nice. And then that led me to being a smoker for over a decade. And then I switched to e-cigarettes, which is not as bad. However, it's still not great. I make mention of that because it ends up that at one point I was chain smoking cigarettes and I smelled horrible, but I could never smell myself. And it's the same thing with life. At some point you made a decision, you liked the way that it felt, and it took you down a path of forming a habit. And more than likely, if you're in that habit, you have no idea that you smell terrible to the people that are not partaking in that habit.
Sure. But that habit is giving you something that you want. If I'm doing something that has me in a negative loop, I'm getting something out of it that I want in some capacity. That's why I keep doing it.
Absolutely. And the purpose of that I'm getting at is that you don't realize what it's costing you. You don't realize how bad you smell to everybody.
Sure. What is it costing me and what am I getting?
Right. However, to actually be able to have the introspection and take accountability for the things that it is costing you, you're likely not going to be able to do that to the full extent, right? But you can look at certain things and go, why do people cringe when I walk by them? Oh, it's because I smell bad. If there is tar on your walls, maybe analyze that and decide whether or not you want to live that way. And I keep bringing it back to smoking, but it's a prime example of getting some self-fulfilling, happiness, little dopamine hit, and then what it ends up costing you in the long run.
It's a good analogy. It makes sense. And I agree with it. And again, I think to support my point is that, okay, cool. What am I going to do differently as a cigarette smoker to get away from smoking cigarettes?
Right.
It's entirely up to me to make that choice, that what I'm getting from it is not worth what I'm spending to get that thing. And what it costs is just, the value of the dopamine hit or the nicotine hit or whatever it is has to somehow at some point not be worth it.
I agree. And that is the entirety of that analogy. Is at some point I made a stupid little decision, and then I continued to make that stupid little decision for decades. And now I'm a 41-year-old man who spends hundreds of dollars on e-cigarettes a month because I made a stupid decision when I was a kid. But there's a multitude of different things that we can be doing that are creating similar situations for us, whether it be playing the victim, whether it be being addicted to the chaos in your relationship with your significant other or with relatives or friends or family, pushing people away, isolating because you feel some certain way, not speaking to people when you need somebody to speak to because you have this this ego about you that says, no, I got this. I don't rely on anyone because at some point somebody hurt me. It all stems way back.
Sure, but I mean, there could also be people that I don't have anyone to talk to. Not everybody has someone to talk to.
Lunatics and Legends podcast at gmail.com.
Somebody to talk to.
I mean, truly.
I'm not discrediting what you're saying.
And you know me. You know damn well I will take emails at 3 in the morning. Yes. You know, if it's legitimate. And in the same right, I'm also not going to allow someone to waste my energy if they're just there to play games and woe is me. Yeah. If you're actually looking for help, like if you need a brother to talk to and you genuinely don't have anyone, if you are at the end of your line, 100% I'll be there. But I have also attempted to counsel people that are stuck in that victim mentality that just say big, scary words about unaliving themselves so that they get the attention.
Sure. Like the illusion.
Right.
Being unhappy. Yeah.
Right.
Regarding presence in the home with the woman, or partner, you know, I think you and I have we don't have completely different ideas of these things, but I definitely operate in a different space when we talk about relationships with our partners and what a man looks like to that. You're very firm about, hey, I'm not going to cry. You're not going to see these emotional sides of me. I'm not a crier myself. But if I am emotional, I'm not necessarily going to put that on a pedestal for everyone to see. However,
right.
Yeah, my partner's going to see that I'm human. I'm not laboring under some kind of a delusion that I am that I'm just stoic all the time.
Right.
She knows that. I'm going to be emotional. I'm not going to flaunt it and wave a flag all the time, but there are simply times where, hey, yep, I'm emotional today. I'm a little bit different version of myself because of all of the spinning plates and my bandwidth being taken up, and not some days I'm going to manage that better than others. I'm going to navigate what's going on in my life. Maybe there's more spinning plates today, these several days versus, last week or the month before. And I've always been a little bit envious of you, of how black and white that is for you, because I don't operate in that space. If I've got something going on for me, my partner's going to know.
And with my partner, when, for example, today,
story time with Eddie.
Today being Valentine's Day, I got my girlfriend what she asked for, and she's an amazing human. She doesn't want chocolates. She doesn't want candies. She wanted seeds for an herb garden and some desert sage, right?
Sounds like her.
Yeah. So I got her those things while she was out shopping. And on the way home, I knew that there was the little stand on the corner where they're selling the teddy bears and the roses and all that. And I stopped and got her daughter a little teddy bear that lights up and has roses on the bottom of it. And I wanted to set them up to surprise them, right? So I call my girlfriend and she goes, oh yeah, we're just checking out right now. I was like, okay, cool. And I go, hey, can you please tell your daughter to get her stuff off of my desk, by the way? And she just goes, oh yeah, sorry about that. And I was like, okay. So they start heading home, and I'm sitting out front, and I was looking at something, and I see the car pull up, and I meet them at the car, and I go, there's toys on my desk, and I that's my place. I need to have to operate. Like, I have to have that clean. And then you leaving all the stuff on the kitchen island, and she has no idea what I'm talking about. And it's the plant, the big sage plant, and all the seeds and everything like that. And she just goes, okay, yeah, sorry about that. And she's thinking I'm pissed off. And she's like, oh, wow. Like he's really spicy about something. And her daughter comes in, and she looks over, and she sees the lights flashing on this little teddy bear. And she looks at me, and she's like, that's not mine. And I go, yeah, it is. Happy Valentine's Day. And she was getting ready to be like, but it's not mine, And it dawned on her what had happened. And my girlfriend was like, oh, thank you so much. Like, that's so sweet. Got all choked up. There are days where I have just had a rough day. If I have to drive an hour and 45 minutes commute home, I'm not going to be in the greatest of moods. And I've talked about this many a times. I go into my room and I decompress for like 15, 20 minutes when I get home. I have to, because I'm just not okay after all of that adrenaline and traffic. And you're giving a little smirk right now
I hear
because
you.
you've been on the phone with me when I'm driving.
And I also have my decompression moments 100%. I'm not taking
Right.
that energy in the house.
Right.
I do sometimes. It doesn't go very well.
Right. And, you know, you keep it in the car. I come home, I set my stuff down because the car is very much a trigger for me. And I want to get away from that. Right. So I just don't hit me with the this happened today. Don't hit me with the, you know, are we going to do this? What's for like, what do you want to do for No, I don't want to do any of that right now. I need to decompress. And I've been moody and I don't want to be moody. Right. So she had told me that her response in her head was, oh, he must have had a really hard day working on the truck. Because, you know, it's Saturday and I had some errands to do. And so she goes, oh, you know, that poor thing. Now, that woman is a saint. That woman is a saint. I can absolutely be moody. I do not like that the emotional side of me is being pissed off from traffic or happy, right? I like to be happy. I'd much rather be happy.
Those are your two emotions.
Yes. However, you know, I don't want to be angry. And, you know, there was some, and there's still more things for me to sit back tonight and pontificate on about why she went, oh, he's got this attitude. Clearly something has not been going his way today, right? I don't want to show up like that for my partner. And yes, I am not a huge fan of crying in front of my partner. I do truly believe that it creates a sense of vulnerability that your partner does not want to see in you. If I say, look, I'm the one who steers the ship, let me steer it. If I'm an emotional man, if I have emotional outbursts, especially in the realm of sadness and depression, then she will constantly question where I'm steering the ship. And so, like I've said before, I cried in front of her the one and only time, and it was when I put my dog down, my best friend. And then I got back up, I dusted myself off, and I got my shit together. I walked that dog out, and I buried that dog. Did I have a couple moments the following 3 or 4 days where I'd get choked up? Yes, absolutely. And I gutted that shit and I moved on. Not saying that is great, but I did not want to break down at that time. I still haven't fully processed it, honestly. And I miss that dog every single day because that dog was my best friend. That dog has been better to me than almost every single human that I've ever met. So did I have an emotional break when that happened? I sure did. But then people, and I've said this before, heroes are not remembered by the thing that took them out. Heroes are remembered by the things that they survived and their story afterwards. And so in that moment, understanding I'm still the man of the house, I'm still the man who's steering the ship, I'm still the man who's guiding us to building the empire, I understood that it was my responsibility to pick myself up and dust myself off. I cannot stay in a victim state. Did it suck? Hell yeah, it did. Did it defeat me? Hell no, it didn't. Time to move. When you give that level of dedication to something and you give that level of stoicism to something, losing your best friend, it's okay to have a small break from the norm. It's okay to have a small breakdown. It is not okay to stay destroyed, period.
Well, sure. That's right back. That's its own loop.
What do you mean?
To stay broken, depressed, that's a loop. That is a loop that is very difficult to get out of.
Yeah.
I think I completely agree with you on the okay, cool. Have the moment, express the moment, pick it up and move right along. Don't stay there.
Right.
Yeah.
And I spent too long staying there. All of the things that I've talked about, even in the episode where I discussed my origin story, as you say, I was in a victim state, in a loop, like you're saying. I'm the combat vet that has to be pissed off at everybody. I'm the combat vet that always has to be difficult. Nobody wants to be around that shit. Fix it. Period. And there are people that I love to death. They are fantastic humans with hearts of gold. And they want to play the victim and they refuse to get out of that loop, and they will not achieve nearly what they could achieve if they were to just pick it up and move on.